Hello, everybody. Welcome, Shanna, to the show. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're going to get into all things manifesting and woo and quantum and all the things today. So I'm excited to see where this conversation goes and what we get into together. I feel like we'll be up to some fun stuff. So
Definitely.
yeah, so let's start. I know that you have a book called Soul Frequency, and I'd love to hear like how did you get into this world of energy and frequency and manifesting? What's your journey been like?
Yeah, it certainly didn't, I would say, live here in the middle of my life. I would say it started at the beginning of my life and then it reawakened itself on the more recent side. So I was born a child who saw, multiple dimensions. I had two spirit guides that came in with me from the time I was born or time that I can remember. And lived in my house, and I was an only child. So it was very funny because, I was like, Mom, don't sit on the couch. Dad, don't you see them? Like, I literally couldn't understand how my parents, couldn't know that there were five of us in the household. And thank goodness I had a grandmother who was just, Native American lineage, like all the way back. Like she was phenomenal. And she was like, leave her alone. She knows what she's doing. My parents were like going crazy, right? Like, what's wrong with our child? And she was awesome. And she was kind of my protector throughout my childhood of just letting me be who I was. And throughout me growing up and her understanding she had a psychic gift. And so she was just, I don't know, like an angel, right? An earth angel.
Mm.
And at a certain point in my growing up, I started to realize other people didn't see the world like I did. And that was shocking to me. Like I felt not normal. And this idea of being normal became like a through line into my teen years and just really feeling like, what are other people doing? Like not knowing how to be normal, like feeling really constrained in like conversations or regular social settings, just looking around like I'm an alien and I don't know how to do this human thing that other people are doing. And it was really bizarre. And I ended up going to college and just again wanting to do everything right, be a good human. And I went into the business world and I started having a lot of success, financial success, and that seemed to be important to the people around me. And so I was really on that track, and I was really not looking at my spiritual side, not looking at anything. I was like, okay, we'll just pull this aside. And I started to have like an awakening experience. So I had amassed a lot of things and a lot of success. And I started to look around my life and be like, I think I'm living somebody else's life. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I've done all this stuff or built all this stuff. And it was a scary time because there was a lot of unraveling going on. And it really took me back to who I was, at the beginning of this life and opening up like my gift in a way that I had never experienced before. And so many times when we're going through like a ego death or spiritual awakening, like your gifts are opening up. And so I started to be able to read people's like energy signature and be able to look at how the signature, almost like the inside of a computer, was built, like how your personality was built, all of the events that had happened that had caused certain, you could call it disconnect in the energy or dissonance in the energy, when that was happening, how that was affecting today. It was bizarre. I was like, what am I seeing? Like, how am I, what is this, right? And what am I supposed to do with this? And just over my journey, I learned more about it, right? It was kind of like walking through like a mystery school of trying to figure out what I was experiencing and what I was doing. And then going through the beginning stages of starting to work with people and going, is this real? And does this help people? And then just getting a lot of feedback that it was really profoundly shifting people's, what I call their soul frequency, and having them be able to create, different things in their life.
That is so cool. I love hearing from, really gifted intuitives and mediums about very much their gifts when they were younger and how scary it can be to, have other people not understand them or not be able to see what they can see and how lonely that can feel really of like people don't really understand me. And the fact that you had your grandmother to be there as your earth angel is so amazing, because I know that not all people have that in this life, someone who really gives you the permission to be your authentic self. So I loved that part of your story. And also really, I know that so many people can relate to this idea of building a life that's not actually theirs, that is based on the path that makes them feel normal or successful in the human realm, but then really feeling disconnected from who they are. And it takes so much courage to share your gifts. And I think also that was such a powerful point around like not knowing if these are even going to be valuable. I know so many healers and intuitives and people who have gone through their own breakthroughs and healing and being like, is this stuff really going to help people? Like, does this really matter? Does it really work? Like, or does it just work for me? And the feedback is really the answer. Like, it does work.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's like you learn to ride a bike when you're a kid. It's learning how to exist in a new reality and in a new frequency. And so it is a bit like, when your parent pushes you behind the bike and you fall down and you get back on, and like eventually you end up riding and you look back and you realize they're not holding on to you and you're like, oh my gosh, and you fall again, right? Because you're like, I didn't know I could balance. And so I think it's a really good analogy for just what opening up our gifts are, right? It's a process, just like learning anything.
Yeah. And I even love this idea of opening your gifts. Like they're already there and they're just being opened and strengthened and amplified. So yeah, that's really beautiful. So let's talk about this concept of energetic alchemy and how to go through the process of up leveling your frequency, up leveling your energy. I'd love for you to walk us through that.
So it's fascinating because it's not linear at all and it doesn't make any sense. So the work I do is really powerful and profound and makes zero logical sense. So it's hard for us sometimes to conceptualize how we really change the things that we want to change in our life or that we don't feel good about anymore. And I realized through my own kind of dark night of the soul that I was being shown and taken through experientially a very specific process. And at a certain point in the transformation, kind of at the worst point of the transformation, the hardest part, they were showing me, this is what we're showing you. And we're taking you through it because you can't possibly understand it unless you made this walk. You wouldn't be able to have the confidence to help people through it unless you know experientially what it is. So there's 4 steps in the process, right? And this is how we change our energy signature, which I call the soul frequency. And the 4 steps are truth, release, experience, and align. And those 4 steps are happening multidimensionally in all areas of life in different ways at different times. So it's not a process we go through once and then we're done, right? Like move on with your life. It's a process we're always undergoing, we're always evolving. Some people call themselves up in this lifetime to going through a very big, right, transformational process, and then many little ones. Some people transform one area of their life, like they kind of come to just really focus on relationship or career and learn lessons around those. So it's really different for everybody, but everybody goes through this process. And it really is that first we discover a new truth. So you're going about your life, you're living, all of a sudden one day you're like, I don't think I should be doing this job anymore. Right? Or you wake up and go, I don't think I should be with this person anymore. Like whatever that is, it's this spark of your soul self telling you something new that is true is coming through for you. And we go through all kinds of toiling with that, right? I talk about in my book how we go from knowing it to speaking it. So many times we know our truth prior to actually being courageous enough to say it to somebody. But truth is a powerful catalyst. And after we realize the truth, we're going to release something, whether that is a belief system, a way of being in the world, a person, ways that we've lived our life. Something is going to be a part of the subtraction equation. And what happens energetically when the subtraction equation occurs is there is room for other energy to move in, right? So hopefully when I'm working with people, it's always a higher vibrational energy. And we want to move that different energy into integration and alignment with ourselves. And so after we release something, we go into what I call mind the gap. It's kind of like this mid stage in transformation where sometimes people feel like, wow, so much in my life has changed, or I just cleared out so much. And now I'm just kind of floating, right? Like nothing new has
Yes.
stepped in yet. I'm just in this middle zone. And I always tell people, like, that is fertile ground for either wanting to run back to your old life, right? Or feeling kind of lost. And what it truly is that most people don't realize is you are now in the land of infinite possibility. So you have this vacant land in front of you, and you get to plant whatever you want to plant. Now, if we're so busy freaking out and going, oh my gosh, what about my old life? And running backwards, right? Which never works. You always end up going forward anyways, right? then, then you're not going to see it for what it is and plant the seeds. So in that mind the gap, I call it, you're planting the seeds. And then you move into experience, which is starting to experience what it's like to have new energy in your life. And by the law of vibration, we're going to actually draw in things, right, that are similar frequency and vibration to where we're at. And so when we start thinking of change along the lines of, if I shift my soul frequency, I'm going to call in people, miracles, right, experiences, opportunities into my life that I never saw before. And so that starts to happen for people. And I call it the land of little miracles because people text me all the time, oh my gosh, this happened. How did it happen? Why did it happen? This is amazing, right? And it's just the law of vibration, right? We are all under the law of gravity. Like nobody says, do you have gravity, right? Does gravity work for you? Gravity works for everybody here, all humans on planet Earth. And so does the law of vibration. So it's this concept of like, will it work for me? Of course, right? Just like gravity works for you. And we move into then a line, which is the fourth step, where we start to really cement and integrate in this new frequency. And again, we go through this many times as we continue to shift our frequency, but in a line is where we start to really feel like this new vibration is yours. Like this is your home base. It feels comfortable. It feels good. It's like things are readily flowing into your life that feel like a reflection of your growth and who you are. And so, like I said, this can happen across the board in your life, or it can happen in just certain areas. But it's always occurring for people.
Mm-hmm. I love this framework because the mind likes to have some type of idea of what's going on. And even just this conversation around like mind the gap, when you have no idea what mind the gap is and you're just in it and you have no context, it feels like so much uncertainty and so like you said, you could either go one way or the other. And I find that a lot of my clients get to this place, and I've been in this place. And I read a channeled text once that calls it the void. And sometimes like just having the context of what the heck is going on right now. Like I've left everything, or like I've released a lot. There's like this suction vacuum of like what's no longer me, but I don't know who I'm going to be next or what's happening. And like nothing's actually changed, but I know something's changing, and can so relate to that. And that land of miracles is so fun because that's really where the magic happens. And this is such a beautiful exploration of the journey of transformation and awakening. And like you said, we may have many awakenings throughout our lifetime. I sure feel like I'm having ego deaths and awakenings very frequently. But I think that would really speak to, what's happening in the collective right now and currently what's happening in the awakening. So tell us more a little bit about any like patterns that you're seeing or what's happening collectively with energy and with frequency right now.
Yeah, lots is changing, right? I mean, people can probably feel this in their life one way or another. And especially this year, this 5 universal year, which is really 5 is a very quick moving number. It's very much transformation and change. So people might feel like they thought they were connecting to an energy and then that energy drops out, right? So that can be expected throughout this year. And why this is happening, why last year happened, like if you really expand out to like this super high perspective, right? Beyond all the details, then what is occurring is we are shifting away from how we view stability, right? So I talk about in my book that stability is an illusion. And it is a common collective illusion that we've bought into. Victimization is also a frequency that the collective has bought into. Fear is a frequency that the collective has brought into. There's many core frequencies that our human race has been running that go very deep, right? And so this idea about stability is huge. And I talk about in the book how we are moving away from this idea that stability is something we gain by freezing, holding on to things, controlling things, like that things outside of us, give us stability, like, well, this is my job, or this is my house, or this is my boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, right? That we hold on to these big pillars in our life as this is my reality. And we are tethered to them, which causes us to not be able to shift our frequency because we hold on so tight to try to derive some sort of stability and safety. And what is evolving, and you can see the wisdom and brilliance in this as I explain it, what's evolving is something that's more true to nature, which is stability comes from my ability to move and evolve. So it is a place inside of you, not outside of you, that creates a foundation. And when you think about nature, like a bird, right, migrates depending on the weather. If it wasn't able to move, it would not survive because it wouldn't be flowing with the ebb and flow and the breath of the planet, right? Like if the sun just stood still, we wouldn't have night, right? So all of these things that happen in nature, and we are a part of nature as much as we try to deny this in so many ways, is showing us that a zebra gets to live because it can run from a lion or a tiger, right? So we have to become more adaptable in our ability to find this idea of stability in our evolution, in our ability to move. Because when you look at everything that's happened over the past year, you see things changing, right, in people's lives in many different ways. And the ego death of that and the fear of that and the, oh my gosh, I don't have my job here or this person here or this much money in the bank. Therefore, I'm imploding inside of myself, right? Which I completely understand. I've been through this in my own ego death. But it's all leading us to collectively understanding that when we have ourselves and when we have this ability to move and evolve, that we're always okay, right? That we're always going to be able to shift, change, move, evolve in the ways that we need to. And this energy is becoming so important on the planet, meaning those people that dig in their heels and resist are going to cause themselves a lot of pain because, again, in nature, you have to move with nature, right? You have to move. If you need sunlight, you need to be in places that have sunlight. And you need to be able to move at different times of the year to get that sunlight. So it's the perfect analogy for what human race is facing at this time. And it really is, the purpose is to lead us back to more of our truth, which we've gotten far away from collectively.
So powerful and so resonant. Like people who are not watching the video, if you're just listening to this, I'm like smiling and nodding my head and just like, yes, yes, yes. Like this is so, so good. And I see so many people, and this is a theme right now of the control and the attachment to the way that things are. These are words that I hear that people have a lot of hard time surrendering or trusting or being unattached to the way things are. And I believe, and this is a lot of the work that I do with women, is really that anchoring within ourselves and developing and cultivating our faith with connecting to the universe and trusting that no matter what's happening in the world, that it's all evolving as it's supposed to, that we're moving in the direction of the highest good of all. And if we focus on the humanness of people are dying and all of the crises that are happening in politics and all of the stuff that basically the news is telling us, we're going to be stuck in that old paradigm, or it's going to be really much harder to evolve with what's happening in the collective. So I think just hearing this is so important for people to know that we get to move with the tide and bring people with us too. So when you live from this place of faith and inner knowingness and connecting to your safety within yourself versus attaching on to safety from external factors that we can't actually control, is such a powerful lesson that I think that many people are being asked to learn, which is really the right, shifting out of the patriarchal ways of being into more of this feminine essence, bringing more of that and reconnecting to nature, I think is a big part of that too. So I love that you brought that in.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So you talk about a difference between conscious manifesting and unconscious manifesting. And I know there's many women who listen to this show who really want to learn more about manifesting and understand it more. So let's talk about the difference between these two.
You're already a master manifester. People ask me, how do I manifest? I'm like, it's like asking, how do I breathe? Right? You just do, right? We just do manifest. That's the truth of it. The distinction and the real question is, how do I consciously manifest what I want versus unconsciously having this manifestation tool like running, doing things that we don't know it's doing. So typically the way we're manifesting when we're unconscious to this is we are focusing our thoughts on what we don't want. And because we're focusing our thoughts on what we don't want, I'm worried that this is going to happen. I'm fearful of this. I don't want this person to leave me. I, don't want this job anymore. And then we start getting emotional about those things, right? So thoughts plus emotions. It's like, now I'm really worried. I'm really upset. I'm feeling this emotion inside myself. What we're doing is we're amplifying the energy because we're giving it our thought and our feeling, and that manifests, right? We start to literally see more of that in our reality. We start drawing more of that same vibration into our life. It's like all of a sudden I'm feeling even more fear, right? I'm feeling more worry. It's like we get on this, what I call a downward spiral, into these lower frequency emotional states. And they're such powerful manifestors. So because our brain is geared more towards the negative, because that's a safety mechanism, right? You want your brain to tell you if you're getting too close to the edge of a cliff, and to back up. And your brain processes most things as though you're going to get in trouble or something bad is going to happen to you if you do anything different than what you know, right? So that brain is always skewing towards the negative to keep you safe and protective. It just doesn't know the difference between actual, you're going to be in harm's way versus you're just getting outside of your comfort zone. So I call it the fear alarm happens no matter what, right? And you as an aware being have to distinguish, am I actually in danger? Like, am I stepping out into traffic? Or am I just trying to grow my life? So that the fear alarm doesn't become the thing that is running your life. So as a conscious manifester, we have a higher consciousness state, right? Through awareness, you don't have to just be in those old mechanisms of safety and control. You can start thinking and training your brain to be along with the journey of what you want, right? What do I want? Instead of thinking about what we don't want, we want to start taking all the hours that we're awake, right? And thinking along the lines of, what do I want to create? What do I want more of in my life? And training ourselves to be as wonderful about thinking that as you are about thinking about all the things that you hate and don't want. And then getting excited about that, right? And the reason that we don't get excited about what we want is we hate to be disappointed. And we have evidence, right? Evidence of I remember when I believed in this and then that didn't happen, right? Or I remember when I tried this and I failed and it was awful and I'm never trying again. So the key is, without any expectation, to consciously manifest, you want to focus on what you want. You want to get excited about it. You have to be emotional about it. And this is a good way to determine if it's something you actually want. Is it an egoic want, or is it like a true soul heart desire? Because if it's a true soul heart desire, you're going to get excited about it. And getting excited about it is a good thing. Thinking about it, getting excited about it. Thinking about it, getting excited about it. This is building, right? Building momentum, energetic momentum, energetic momentum. And what we're saying is, on a very vibrational level, I would like that future possibility pulled towards me in this 3D reality. You have all these possibilities, right? All these different pathways you can go down, all these possible futures. When you start thinking about one, you're that powerful and you start getting excited about it, you're starting to pull that reality towards you. And as you pull that reality towards you, you start to see evidence, right? That is starting to manifest in your life. Like someone could come and tell you something and you're like, oh, it's happening, right? This thing I wanted is coming together. Or you get a random email from someone you've never met. They're like, hey, heard you want to be on TV. I do. I wanted to manifest being on TV. This is amazing, right? Where'd you come from? And you'll start to get the evidence. And then take that example, like I want to be on TV, right? When that person emails you and says, great, we have a spot for you on TV, now you really start to believe that manifestation. Like I am now seeing evidence that this is stepping into my reality. Therefore, I'm going in even more, right? I'm going to think about that even more. I'm going to believe in that even more. And the manifestation just starts to build momentum, right? That energy just starts building and building and building in your life. And as that energy builds, you can start pulling things in faster and faster, right? It becomes like a huge snowball versus like a tiny little snowball. And it just starts being an attractor, right? Driving things towards it all the time and pulling it in without you at that point doing too much, right? It's not this, I'm running out here doing this or doing that. It's like, I'm just sitting here thinking and feeling and knowing that shifts what steps into my life.
Hmm. Yeah, that was really powerful. I love the snowball effect of how it grows and grows and grows. I'd love for you to break down a couple of things. One being the difference between ego desires and soul desires. How does someone drop into what's truly a soul desire versus what their ego wants?
So most of the frequency that we're born into is somebody else's frequency, like our parents or whoever our caregivers are. And the predominant, I'm just going to use a huge generalization, but the predominant frequency is that of our egoic state. So we are being directed in our life constantly from our parents' egoic state or our caregivers or teachers or society about who to be, how to show up in the world. And so we only know that for the most part until we have like an awakening experience. This isn't everybody, but most people. And that egoic state is always operating off of fear, right? Fear, worry. I want to do this in my life so I don't fail. I want to do that in my life so people don't see me this way. I want to show up like this so I don't get in trouble, right? Everything is driven by fear, while your soul self is sitting in the backseat of the car, just waiting for an opportunity to talk, right? The ego's like, I got this, I'm driving, we're all good. What happens in a so-called spiritual awakening or an ego death, your ego doesn't go away. It's not an actual death of your ego, like bye-bye. You wouldn't want that. You need an ego. It'd be very weird if you didn't have one. So we want to love our egos too. We just don't necessarily want our ego to run the show. So in that process, and what I call energetic alchemy, is when this switchover happens, where now your soul self is driving the car and your ego is in the back seat. So it's a complete like 180. And the things that your soul self wants you to learn and create, they feel good. And even if they're harder lessons, because sometimes your soul teaches you challenging lessons, you almost walk away from it going, I needed that. I needed to see that. I needed to learn that. I understand the wisdom in this. I understand why it happened, even if it was difficult or painful. But when you start to create and build from this place of soul self, you are feeling those higher frequency emotions. You're feeling the joy and expansion and empowerment and the goodness. And you're really like your body is resonating with this. And there's also a profound feeling of like, I'm doing this. Like, this is not about what my parents want or my boyfriend wants or my girlfriend wants or society wants. Like, many times people feel like I am out over here on a limb doing something totally different than what other people expect of me, but it feels so good because it's truly coming from this place of a heartfelt desire. So ego desires have a basis of fear. If I don't make this amount of money, I'm going to be homeless. If I don't make this amount of money, people are going to judge me. Where your soul is like, I want to build this because I want to help people, right? I want to build this because it feels so good and it brings me joy and it brings others joy. So the decision is coming from this place of peace, from alignment, from love, from your own inner truth. And it will feel like your whole body, if you're in touch with your body, you'll feel it from head to toe versus the constriction and constraint of egoic choices.
Hmm. Yeah, I think this is a daily navigation that we can take a look at, like, where are my desires coming from, and
Yeah.
not making the ego desires wrong, because they're coming from that place of fear and safety and control. And it's part of our wiring here. And I think that, the question that we can ask ourselves when we say we want something is just simply inquiring, not judging, around like, why do I want that? What would that, like, sometimes when we ask that question, why, we can go deeper into the feeling, or, oh, I actually want that because someone else told me that that was important, or do I even really want that? And just that simple question of why, and then going even deeper into that, well, why do I want that? And having that self inquiry, I think, around our desires is really important and can help us to differentiate between these two. So thank you for clarifying that part. There was another piece that I wanted to come back to. I'm going to see if my brain remembers which part it was in the conscious versus unconscious manifesting. I'm sure if I talk about something else, it'll come back. So I think that when people aren't seeing their manifestations come true yet, there can be a lot of like, is this actually going to happen? So is this practice that you're talking about, is it you mentioned it's about shifting your thoughts throughout the day from, instead of the what you don't want to what you do want. So is this like a morning practice? Is this all throughout the day? Like, what are some ways that people can start to really integrate this into their life?
So typically, I just want to answer your other question about manifestations not happening in a certain timeline.
Mhm.
One of the major reasons that if you're wanting to manifest something, you want to check in that it is a heart desire, right? Because that's what's going to really manifest and stick. You also want to look at what you might need to release. So release is the stickiest part of the anatomy of transformation and energetic alchemy. And many times we want to bypass release. Like, let me just go from truth to manifestation, right? Which is experience. And we're like, I don't care about the mind the gap. I don't want to deal with the release. And many times, if we try to jump really quickly to manifestation, and let's say we haven't deprogrammed like certain beliefs we're holding that we might not even know we're holding, or we haven't released certain things from our life, and we haven't untethered ourselves from that old frequency, then we are trying to force manifest something at a different frequency when we haven't truly aligned with that. So that's a good time to go back, right? And go back to truth and go back to release. I feel like it's almost meant to be that we have some guidance going through release, because there are just certain things that our ego really doesn't want us to like dig into and see, right? There's those places that it really helps to have somebody reflecting back to you, like, look over here,
Mhm.
right? Let's do some
The
work.
blind spots.
Yeah, the blind,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this is what's in the way. So that's important to look at. But it's also in manifestation, we have to be very careful about expectation, because our ego, right, when we're running at our egoic frequency that we're born into, everything is about expectation. You set a goal, it needs to be done in 3 months. You need to graduate school at this time. You're a failure if you don't do X, Y, or Z in a certain time frame. So our linear mind is very connected to this idea of, I want to manifest this, and I'm going to manifest it in 3 months. Like, part of moving into the divine feminine and balancing our feminine and masculine energies at this time is moving into this state of like being able to, yes, take action with our divine masculine, but then just go into the space of creation and divine timing, right? So it's this balance of taking an action, moving forward. Okay, I'm inspired. I want to take an inspired action. Okay, now I'm going to sit, right? And I'm going to think about where I want to go, what I want to create. I'm going to get excited about that. I have no expectation on how that manifests in my life. Sometimes we get in this thing of, I'm going to manifest the perfect guy, and it's going to be this guy, right? This is my perfect guy.
At this time, at this exact time.
And he's coming in 2 months, right? And so we're almost like forcing when maybe, like, it's interesting when I tune into people's energy and I'm looking on the periphery of their life, many times the things that they are painstakingly telling me, like, I want this and why can't I have it? It's like right there on the edge of their reality. But something they can't see is causing them to not allow it to step into their reality, to become a vibrational match. And so sometimes we feel like we're fighting life, And I'm like, you're the creator. Like, you're the one, you know what I mean? It's like, you have so much power and this is standing right here waiting to come in. The question then becomes like, why am I not letting this in? Right?
Mhm.
What am I still connected to or believing that has me not allow the very thing that I am literally emotional about because I want it so bad into my life? And so I always say that transformation is a subtraction equation, not an addition. We always want to buy more clothes, just throw them in the closet, right? We want to get more stuff, but really it's like, let's look at that. You already have it all. You're already like wonderful and perfect, and you came with, you know, all these gifts. And if we're not experiencing all of that, then what is in the way that's causing us not to? Not go out there and get more. I'm going to learn to become this or learn to do that. Or it's like, there's so much wisdom in any one human being. You know so much already. The stuff you don't even realize you know. It's more about peeling back the layers of like, what is causing me to not fully see myself, and shifting that energy, because then you're naturally a high vibration, right? Like your soul
Mhm.
self is a high vibrational being. So it's not like, how do I go get a better vibration? It's like, how do I take away the things that are tethering me to something that no longer feels in alignment with who I really am?
Mhm. Yeah, such an important distinction of it's not about having more, it's actually releasing and making space for the vibration that we actually want to be able to come through.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah, amazing. And then to go back to that question, which was the question that I was going to ask around, the practice of, is it in the moment that you notice your thought that is a, fear-based thought? Is that the moment where you work on shifting it, or are we actively practicing throughout the day or in the morning or the evening, focusing on what we do actually want to call in?
It's a great question. I call them pattern interrupts. So there are many ways to interrupt our old patterned thinking. And from an energetic standpoint, you just want to throw a wrench in the way that you've done things before. It's like if you spend, let's say, 30 minutes every day talking to yourself about how you don't love your body or you don't like the way you look or whatever, right? These are cyclical patterns that people get into, and they get very accustomed to them, and they can even be unconscious. Like, people are doing this all the time in their head, they don't even realize they're doing this. So you want to start being able to just see the pattern, because that's you, the observer is your higher consciousness. So if you can step outside the pattern enough to look back and see yourself doing it, then you are in your higher consciousness, right? Because when we're in the throes of these patterns, we're just existing in the pattern. So when you step outside,
Mhm.
you're able to look back and be like, oh, there I am. Look at my mind just going on and on about how I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. Like, oh my gosh, look at my mind, so mean, right? Wouldn't be this mean to anybody else. When you're able to say that, that's that higher consciousness part of you. And for that moment, you have stepped out of the pattern. So the trick is to constantly be interrupting and stepping out of the pattern. So at that moment, you could, like, some things I've given people before is like, if your mind is going on and on about something and you're just like, I can't stop it. It feels like I'm witnessing it, but I can't stop it. Like, you could put on super loud music and just start singing like at the top of your lungs to just drown out that voice. Or you can get up, like sometimes just physically moving, like I'm going to get up and just walk around my house or my apartment, like again and again and again, and just start thinking of something else. Call a friend, right? Just start talking about anything else, doing anything else. So in the beginning stages, like, it's just literally stopping the pattern, because human beings are built on patterns, right? Patterns aren't a bad thing. We just want to have patterns that we want, and not the ones that we don't want, and not the ones that we inherited, right, from other people, which many times happens. So you just want to pattern interrupt however you need to. Put on a podcast, right? Like, watch a show, just dive into something else that gets you out of that thinking. The more you interrupt the pattern over time, the more the energy of the pattern breaks down. Because again, it needs your attention for it to exist, right?
Mm,
It
yeah.
cannot exist in your reality unless you're giving it your attention in the form of thought and feeling.
So powerful, which is really what I've been diving into with quantum physics, of like how our consciousness impacts what's in front of us, or what we're drawing to us, right? If we're thinking about it, giving it attention, giving it energy, we're going to be creating that in our reality, which is really fun when you get into like the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, and this goes back to like this frequency of victimization I talked to you about, because if you realize that you're the creator, right? Like I am supplying energy to the things in my life, then we don't have this story going on about my life can't be what I want because of this person, right? My life, if this circumstance would have been different, then my life could be different. Like when I talk about victimization, I'm talking about an overarching frequency that has us feel completely disempowered. Like it wasn't my choice. This
Mm-hmm.
happened to me. And awful things happen to people. I'm not discounting that at all. But it is our choice whether we stay in a disempowered state or whether we take full responsibility for our human life and move into an empowered state. And the difference is if we stay disempowered, like life is happening to me and I have no choice about anything, like if we have that as our truth, how do we ever manifest anything else? If my truth is that, or my belief system is that everything is happening to me, right? And I can't control any of that, I'm completely disempowered, then I'm going to constantly stay in a state of I can't control what I want in my life. I can't create anything. I only am in reaction to my outer reality. And what we were talking about earlier is building your inner reality and having that frequency go out into the world. So the hardest part of an ego death or spiritual awakening is taking responsibility for every single thing in your life, not because you're excusing people's bad behavior, because a lot of people have bad behavior and sometimes it's hurt you awfully, and that's awful, right? But simply to shift your vibration from 3D to 5D, which is I am the creator of my reality and I am responsible, right? I came here to learn lessons. I create all kinds of wild things so I could, at a soul level, learn lessons. And because I know I'm the creator and I'm willing to be responsible for my whole life, I can create all kinds of things. And that puts you in the driver's seat of your life. And that makes you like right front and center for your ability to manifest. And so it's super, super important that we understand this at this time collectively on the planet, because this victim energy is coming up in such a big way. And it's not, there's no judgment on it, right? It's like we've all lived within it, but we all can look within ourselves and say, where am I still attuning to this? And where can I attune to something higher than this, right? So that the things that I came here to do, your soul mission, can actually have a chance to breathe and be a part of this lifetime, right? In this reality. It's really, really important and valuable work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be really, really hard and painful to look at that and take full
Totally.
responsibility.
the,
And
the
I think,
most the most difficult thing ever. And I
Mhm.
speak from personal experience that it was the most difficult thing for me, and I think it's the most difficult thing we're being called up to for anybody at this time. And when you go on this journey, if you ever decide to, there will be one or two things you're like, no, I am not taking responsibility for this. This was not my fault, right? Like it is so confronting. So for anybody that's at a place where you even want to think about this and it's not for everybody, it's so confronting. And yet the truth sets you free, right? And some of the most confronting stuff we ever look at is literally like the doorway to greater freedom. And so for those, I know there's a lot of high frequency beings listening to your show, which is why I'm even sharing about this,
Mhm.
because it's a very like advanced level of transformation. It's sticky, right? It is sticky. It feels like so triggering, but I feel like there are people that I'm just tuning in right now that listen to your show that are at that point where they can step into that, right? Like they can hear that and maybe even be triggered by it, but also think about it, right? And say, okay, where am I willing as a higher dimensional being, right, to take full responsibility of this 3D reality that I created for myself, and to start stepping into a level of like mastery that frankly Earth needs, right? More people to step into at this time so that the whole vibration can ascend for us.
Mhm. Yeah, 1000%. And I see this happening, needing to happen more and more. We can so keep giving our power away to everything that's happening outside of us and we have no control over that. So really taking your power back and taking responsibility. And I think even just naming this pattern is going to be a light bulb awakening for some people, not even knowing that they've been living from that place of everything's happening to me or I'm not taking responsibility for my life. I think that awareness is really where the biggest transformation happens. So thank you for bringing that to us today and for tuning into that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So I know that there's going to be people who want to read your book, who want to keep following you, who want to work with you. So where can everyone find you? What's the best place to connect?
Our home base is thesoulfrequency.com. Also, there's a really cool guide to kind of see where you're at energetically that a lot of people really like. And you can get that at thesoulfrequency.com/soul.
Mm,
And the book is on Amazon.
amazing. I'm definitely going to go get the book. And I love everything that you're sharing. Thank you for being such a beautiful vessel for all of the wisdom that's coming through you and for the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.